तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ Chapter 11, Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga. The chapter has 55 shlokas. 55 verses are there, divided into 6 topics. The progression happened from the 7th chapter onwards, remember. From chapter 7, the ideas were building slowly, one after the other. And now, in the link between the 10th and the 11th chapter is this. In the 10th chapter, Krishna explained how God is pervading the universe analytically. Analytical presentation was given in the 10th chapter. Now, in the 11th chapter, the presentation moves from analytical to synthesizing all that in one. So the teaching is moving from verbal communication to visual communication, that's all. What is the 10th and 11th chapter, sir? Verbal communication, whatever is being told verbally, is visually presented here, so that Arjuna can understand that better. That's the central theme here. So 10th chapter, analytical, verbal communication. So the link, the idea is flowing like this between 10 and 11, because the ideas are very similar here. The 7th chapter, 8th chapter, there is a slight deviation. And then again the thought flow continues from 9. And then that 9, 10, 11. And 12, again we will find the whole thing is getting summarized. This is the flow that is happening in the Gita. So the link between the 10th and 11th chapter is this. 10th chapter, analytical presentation, verbal communication. 11th chapter, synthetic presentation, visual communication. So whatever Krishna had taught, explained or stated in the 10th chapter is presented in a form. So how that is happening, it is quite natural, because once Arjuna keeps hearing the glory of Krishna, detailed explanation, detailed presentation was given by Krishna in the 10th chapter. So since he has heard so much about it, it is obvious that Arjuna will get curious to see that. It is a natural development of anything. Imagine that you keep on reading in the newspapers about a movie, right? You are on talking about it. So more and more you hear people talking about that movie. Even though you are not a person who would love to watch movies, you will sit and watch that movie. Why? Because you have heard so much about it. Same way, here Krishna has spoken so much about, see me here, see me there, here you see me like this, there I am, here I am, there I am, here I am. And then finally he turned the table around in the concluding verse of chapter 10. There, Arjuna, it is very difficult for you to see me like that. But it is easier for you to see the whole world in me. Because in the beginning of the 10th chapter, that is what Arjuna asked. Arjuna's problem was, Krishna, you had spoken so much about your glory. But where am I to see God? You are in the world, you say. But in the world, where? How to see you? So Krishna gave, you see me here, you see me there, here like this, there like that, here like this, there like that. And he went on and on and on. And then finally he said, Arjuna, the truth is, I am not there. The whole world is in me. Instead of trying to see me in the world, it will be easier for you to see the world in me. This is easier. That way, if you come, it's very difficult. Like we give direction to our house, right? To few people, when they come, first time, they call. The Google map will show you that, but don't go there. The roads are very bad. So, don't go in that direction. It will come roundabout, but take the other route and come. How you are able to say? Because you know better. Same way, Krishna has a better understanding of how the world is existing. So since he has that better understanding, he is able to present it like this. Once Krishna has presented like that, naturally Arjuna will say, hey, I thought I should see you in the world. Now you are saying the whole world is in you, which is easier. That's where we saw in the last one. I gave you an example also. One thing is to search for space inside pot. Another thing is to understand that the pot is in space. Both are correct. The space is inside pot. There is space in the pot also. Not that you can't say there is no space in the pot. Yes, of course it is there. But in reality, the pot is in space. Only then you have complete knowledge. If you have that knowledge, the space is inside pot, your knowledge is partial, incomplete, defective knowledge. Whereas, when you understand there is space in the pot and the pot is in the space. So, if you understand it like this, your knowledge of the relationship between pot and space is better, more grounded, pragmatic. If you have only one dimension of it, it is incomplete. Remember, either case. Since Krishna was explaining the idea with two angles. Arjuna is wanting to see God in the world. Krishna says, yes, I am in the world also. But then it will be easier for you to see the world in me. To see God in the world, is it easier? Or to see the entire world in God, which is easier? Krishna says, it is easier for you to see world in God. It is easier to see pot in space. Why? Only then you can understand the space is more pervasive than pot. Since space is far more pervasive than pot, to say space in that pot would be reducing the status of the pot. The space. The space pervasiveness is reduced. Therefore, to understand that pot is limited and space is all pervasive, you have to understand that pot is in space. By de facto, you will understand then if space is all pervasive, then that space has to be inside the pot, and the space has to be allowing the walls of the pot to be dividing two spaces, as it were, outside, inside, isn't it? In that pot we have two spaces will be there now. One is space inside the pot and then space outside the pot. Right? Can the walls of the pot divide that space? In essence, in reality, is it possible? The walls of the pot cannot be dividing it. Why? Because the wall itself is in the space. The walls of the pot is existing because the space has allowed it to exist there. If the space were to resist, if the space were to disapprove the existence of the walls of the pot itself cannot exist. Therefore, which is a right understanding? Space in the pot or pot in the space? Krishna is of the opinion that pot in the space is a far better understanding, more comprehensive, closer to the reality than the space in the pot. This is how we understand the idea here. So the first idea is to start with, it is okay for you to assume, understand the space in the pot. Why? Because you are starting the analysis from the knowledge of the pot. With the knowledge of the pot, you are trying to understand the space. Therefore, it is okay. But once you have crossed a stage, what you need to do is, you need to understand the other way also. So here Krishna is giving the idea of the whole world is existing in God. So space is equated to God, pot equated to the world. That's the equation. So anywhere you want to understand the relationship between God and world, immediately you bring in this idea of pot and space. You will have a better understanding. So this example helps us a lot. And now what is happening here is, from this knowledge, obviously Arjuna will ask this question. The curiosity in Arjuna will get kindled. So Arjuna requests Krishna to show his form. So that's the first topic here. Verses 1 to 12. Arjuna is requesting Krishna to show the form, and then Krishna agrees and shows his cosmic form, the Vishwarupa. he is showing. From 13 to 25, Arjuna is describing the cosmic form. He is telling, I don't know to whom he is telling, must be telling to himself. Right? Because there is no one else. There's no point in telling Arjuna, Krishna, I am seeing this. But it is like that. If you analyze carefully, there is no need for Arjuna to tell Krishna. But sometimes we also do that. No? The lady who has prepared the food knows what is the taste of it. Right? But then we go and tell them, no? Oh, food was very nice. And particularly this dish, particularly that flavor in the dish, particularly, the texture in which you have prepared this, it was so nice. The little salt that we are tasting, that is superb. How did you bring that? Something like that we keep saying. It's not that the cook doesn't know those things. Of course the cook knows. But then when we appreciate something, when we enjoy something, we will describe it. And better the description, greater the description, shows greater the experience and intense enjoyment of that experience. So after seeing that, Arjuna is wonderstruck and starts describing what he is seeing. Right? Once he describes all that, suddenly the scene changes. Right? The form, remember, this cosmic form is not a static form. Right? It's not a static. It is dynamic. The scene keeps changing. Now he starts with something and suddenly the whole thing is changing. The scene. In the 10th chapter, when Krishna was explaining, he was explaining the pleasant expressions of God. In the Vishwarupa Darshana, he should be seeing those things. But Arjuna is seeing something else there. Krishna described something. It's like some movies you see, the teaser. What you see in the teaser and what the movie is, there's no connection. Isn't it? Something like that here. He spoke something and he is showing something else almost like. Remember, we cannot be discussing from the angle of Krishna showing. In the 11th chapter, it's a very important point to remember. Never analyze the 11th chapter, view this 11th chapter from Krishna showing the form. You need to see it only as Arjuna's vision. What is Arjuna seeing? Not what Krishna is showing. Because what he is showing and what Arjuna is seeing, is it matching? We have no idea. Right? We have no clue. We have no idea in terms of what was shown by Krishna. We are getting the description of what is seen by Arjuna. What is seen by Arjuna is dependent on Arjuna, not dependent on Krishna. Remember this. Perceptive reality is dependent on the perceiver. Perception is always dependent on the perceiver. I'm sure all of you are very familiar with these stories. One day Krishna called Duryodhana and Yudhishthira and requested Duryodhana to find one good person in the world and asked Yudhishthira to find one bad person in the world. Both the fellows came back together empty-handed after searching the whole world. After checking the entire database, they had all, voter ID, Aadhaar card, passport, this one, that one, all that they would have had in those days. So he checked out all those things, and then finally they came to conclusion what? Duryodhana comes to the conclusion, looking at the same database, that there is no. These are all, very old stories. Better way for you people to understand is, after election result, how the party which has won describes the election result vis-a-vis how the party who has lost describes the election result. If you have won, then the whole analysis will be based on the number of seats. If you have lost the election, then it is based on the vote percentage. See that? If you have won the seat, after that we don't discuss in terms of vote percentage and all that. This divided, that divided. You will never see a winning party analyzing the vote share, this, that, nothing they will talk. All the time when they lose election only, all the discussions will start. See, like that it is. Same event only, but depends on statistician. Statistical analysis is based on who is the statistician. Same way. Perception is based on the perceiver. And remember, whatever you are calling as a reality in life is your perception. Now there is a loop. What I perceive is what I will treat as reality, and I decide what I perceive. So finally, what is reality? Whatever I decide is the reality, that's all. It depends on you only. It has got nothing to do with outside. So this entire cosmic form, 11th chapter, Vishwarupa Darshana, when you are discussing, remember the vision is a subjective vision, not an objective reality. Don't assume like that. So in the second one, the topic 13 to 25 and 26 to 34, you will see a sudden change in Arjuna. He starts to describe that he wanted to see Krishna is showing, and he is seeing that, and he is wonderstruck with that vision, and suddenly he starts seeing all destructive dimension of the reality. When Krishna was describing in the 10th chapter, always he has been telling, I am the origin, I am the sustainer, and I am the end of the world. I am in the beginning, in the middle, and the end. I am in all three spaces. When I am there in all three spaces also, in all three aspects of life, beginning, middle, end, in all three, I am. All of us cherish the beginning. We also enjoy the middle. When it comes to the ending part of it, we feel what? No, this is the play work of a devil, we will say. Destruction aspect is the job of a devil. He says, no, I am the beginning, I am the middle, I am the end. I am the creator, I am the maintainer, I am the destroyer.
So when you say, I am going to see God in His totality, there is always the destructive dimension also will be there in God. Don't expect God not to have it. We can't accept. We want God to be always smiling at you. Right? That's why we say, all gods carry a weapon. The symbolism, if you see, beautifully described. Every god carries a weapon with them. Shiva carries Trishul. He will keep poking you with that. When he's poking you with that, you get angry. But when he's blessing you, you say what? That's a very good God. This is a very bad God. We divide God also good and bad. He is all-encompassing. If God is all-encompassing, then He will have the destructive dimension also in Him, and in that cosmic form, He will show you that also. The best part here is, Arjuna is seeing the creative dimension of God, pleasant dimension of God. The painful dimension of God comes, what happens here? He says, I am overwhelmed with fear. He gets so scared. Why he gets so scared? Arjuna wanted to see God, but as he prepared himself, that is a quite good question. Many a times, yes, one of the best, dialogue. Pardes, this movie, Om Puri, I think, he will keep asking, Shah Rukh Khan there, tell me the truth, tell me the truth, Jay. He will reply to him, I am not sure whether you are capable of receiving the truth. Beautiful dialogue. Many a times in life also, we keep asking with others, tell me what's happening, tell me what's happening. Now the problem is, if the other person were to tell you, do you have the capacity to digest it? Many a times this is where we get into relationship problems and all that. Oh, you are not open to me, you are not open in communication, there should not be any secret between you and me. All some weird ideas. How can you not have a secret? What we need to understand is, the other person is not given the conviction that I am capable of digesting hard facts of life. So long as I have not given that proof, that conviction to the other person will definitely hide things from me. Not that they are doing something mischievous, so that they are hiding. Most of the time it will be, sir, it is a problem. It is a disturbance to the other person. I don't want to disturb your peace. Let me handle the problem my own. You handle your things, I handle my problem. You don't worry about it. This is the stand most of us will take. So here Arjuna is asking, he wanting to see the cosmic form, but is he prepared to see that? Since he has not prepared well to see God in totality, there is fear. There is a fear that comes in. So how do you get this, sir? How do you get it is a different equation. What am I to do to prepare myself? How am I to qualify myself? So when he sees God in that fearful form, he surrenders to that, he feels that fear, he adores. See the conflicting things in him. There is fear in him, there is adoration in him, and then he surrenders to God also. It's so interesting here. You know, in the 11th chapter, more of the psychological aspects you will find. You know, superhuman, one dimension is superhuman things. Another one is psychological aspects will be fantastic here. Than the idea of actually seeing God. So this seeing God is not the essential part, because seeing God becomes more difficult for us to philosophize and understand intellectually. Intellectually, if you have to understand, you should understand only one thing. What is it, sir? It is not objective vision, it is a subjective vision. If it is objectively Krishna is actually showing, then the entire army should be seeing, no? Does the entire Kaurava and Pandava army seeing? No. It is only Arjuna seeing. If it is only Arjuna's vision, then it is not objective reality. It is a subjective reality. Subjective one, that is. So therefore, we don't pay much attention to this. That's why most of these people, don't worry about this chapter. They skip it. Many of them. Why? Because it is his subjective thing. Now, who cares about what is the subjective dimension of Arjuna? But then there is a lot of psychological implications we understand from this. So if we go there, we'll explain that. 35 to 45. Beautiful progression. How this leads to that, that leads to this. Three things he will experience here. Fear, adoration, surrender. 35 to 45. And then 46 to 51, Arjuna says, please come back to your original form, normal form. Take it back. I don't want this cosmic vision. Now, cosmic vision is too much for me. So, take it back, he says. So he says, this is the idea of how experience progresses into seeing the cosmic form, adoring that, fear, devotion. This is the essential thing that you need to observe in the 11th chapter. And this Vishwarupa is described by three people here. It's another uniqueness about this chapter. Arjuna is describing, Krishna describing, Sanjaya describing. You will find three things. One, Krishna himself describing the form. What is it? And then Arjuna is describing the form. Then you will find Sanjaya also describing the form. And the account given by three will appear totally different. Krishna's description is different from Arjuna. Arjuna's description is different from Sanjaya. This is where we extract a clue. What does it say? It is not objective reality. See, what Arjuna is seeing is Arjuna's vision. What Sanjaya is seeing is Sanjaya's version. Sanjaya never understands Arjuna's description. Arjuna never understands Sanjaya. Both don't understand Krishna. Right? Both don't understand. He says this is what it is, but both don't recognize it. This is where we extract a clue. And finally, Krishna says the way to reach the Supreme Being. almost sort of a appeasement that I have come back to normal form. Don't get scared. He speaks almost like, very a pleasant tone in which he speaks in this last 4 verses. 3 verses, 52, 53, 55. There, he just speaks, says how to reach that supreme being. This is the overview of the chapter. So how you need to understand the chapter is like this. Krishna explained it in the 10th, triggered curiosity in Arjuna, which is natural. You can't blame Arjuna for that. Right? You can't say, oh, he is genuinely he wanting to see. But then wanting to see is different from qualified to see. Many of us have the desire to get things. But are you qualified to get it? Is the essential question that we need to ask. So here he is giving that. He says Arjuna is desirous, but he is not ready. But Krishna nevertheless shows it. And when he shows, it is wonderful. Slowly that scene changes and Arjuna starts feeling the fear. He starts getting scared of what he is seeing. And that slowly develops into surrender. It's a very, very important progression for any spiritual seeker. Remember this. In the beginning of the 2nd chapter itself, Arjuna has mentioned it to Krishna. Sishyasteham chadimam tvam prapannam. Please take me as your Sishya, your student. The student's surrender. If your surrender were to be happening without these 2 experiences, your surrender can never be complete. Remember that. If you say that, I have never felt fear in front of God. To say that I have surrendered to God, I have devotion to God, is fake. You are simply using the word called the surrender. It is not possible. I repeat, because this is the most important aspect of the class. Make a note of it. If you have to claim that you have surrendered to God, your devotion to God, the devotion of yours, the surrender of yours, the faith of yours, the belief of yours, whatever you call, that should be having the backup of 2 things. 1, adoration. 2, fear. There has to be adoration towards God. Also, there has to be fear towards God. The fear towards God is 0, sir. And don't come here and start talking in languages like you should have love towards God, not fear. It is a good statement to make. Right? It's a good, good philosophy to talk. But you can't live it. That is not a possibility. Now go back and see all devotees that you can think of. Anyone whom you consider as devotee of God, according to you. Suppose if you say, sir, I am not able to see anyone as a devotee of God, forget it. Right? In anywhere in the world, in any generation, you take, this person is a devotee of God. You will find in him both these emotions playing together. The emotion of adoration, also
also the emotion of fear. You, I'm scared of him, or I'm scared of her. That fear should be there. Adoration should be there. Fear should be there. It's just a question of proportion. That's about it. In all the variations that you see in God, in these devotees, you see the proportion varying in people, in the devotees. That's why the phrase itself we have in Tamil. See, bhakti. Always they will be referring bhakti not just as bhakti. It's always referred by a bhakti. When you go to temple, when you're standing in front of the deity, there should be what? They say, Bhaya Bhakti. That devotion should have fear. That devotion should have adoration, wonderment. You should start adoring that person, God. Also, you should have fear in God. Together, when you are experiencing that combination of adoration plus fear matures into surrender. Only then it is organically developed. Otherwise, it is a plastic mango. You can't eat it. You can keep in your showcase. We have this Navaratri is coming. That in the Navaratri, people have that steps and all that they keep, golu they'll keep. In that, if you find, they'll have lot of fruits. Fruit basket will be there. All the fruits will be there inside, but you can't eat any one of that. Next year, what you will do? Keep the same thing. Pack it, put it on the loft, again unpack, keep that. Again pack, and some of them claim we have been using this for the last 27 years. This is 27 years we have used to this. How can you have a fruit for 27 years? The fruit will not be there for 27 years. Why? It's not organic. If you want to experience, that's the crux of the 11th chapter. If you miss this dimension of the 11th chapter, then you have missed the whole point. After experiencing these two in you, naturally that surrender will come in you. Then, giving it a proper structure, right? It's born. After that surrender or this bhakti that is formed in you, that is born in you, should be further strengthened. That is the 12th chapter. Okay. 10. Analytical presentation. In the 11th chapter, he gets inspired because of that analytical explanation of Krishna. Arjuna gets curious, inspired to see the form. When he saw the form, something happened in him. What has happened in him? Adoration plus fear. This adoration plus fear together gave birth to surrender, bhakti. That bhakti needs to be solidified. It is temporary, remember. The bhakti that is formed in the 11th chapter is temporary. It's not permanent. Remember, it's just a temporary one. Momentary. Because of the situation. Situation has inspired him to feel like that. Like when you go and see, Manasarovar. Right? In that momentary there is.
But once you come down, what happens? After that, it's all gone. After that, what is it? Just a memory. That's about it. After that, you are not going to be getting anything. Yeah, it was a fantastic experience, I tell you. You say, what is that experience? That is gone. Why? It's momentary. It will be like that. Now, you can't blame that, remember. You need those moments of life. That's why we spend so much of time and energy and go to such places. Why we go to these various yatras and all those things? Not like the way you people go nowadays. Nowadays it is more of a tourist attraction. A tour organizer. It's not a yatra we go. No. You call it as yatra. Just a tourism, that's about it. Right? That apart. That system we say, yes, it is recommended for people to go for yatra. Why? Because those places were the ones which will give you that momentary inspiration. The moments, the possibilities of that bhakti to be born in you. Remember, the birth of bhakti is not in your hands. It has to happen. But what you are going to do when it happens, after it has happened, is totally in your hands. Now, how you can structurize it, how you can solidify that. Like we say, how to solidify mercury. It's an art. There's nothing symbolic there. That's chemistry. Right? Now people think, solidifying mercury means it is something mystical. Nothing mystical. It is chemistry. So how to do that? You need there is a process. Like how do you solidify water? Water is a liquid form, no? Liquid form. The liquid form of it can be solidified. If water can be solidified, why not this? But only thing is what? You can't put mercury inside the fridge. Nor can you put water in the proper process through which you can solidify mercury. That's a different process. This is a different process. Same way, the bhakti feeling is born. But then you need the 12th chapter to solidify that. That is why the 12th chapter is titled as Bhakti Yoga. So 10, 11 and 12. Now before that I am not giving, okay? I have just referred it. 7, 8, 9. In that, 8 is slight deviation. I am not telling you what the deviation, what is the starting and all that, okay? Right now you don't need all that. Right now, concentrate on these 3 now. One before, one after. Right now we are in the 11th chapter, beginning of that. One before is 10, 12. 10th chapter gave the foundation. 11th chapter, born. 12th chapter, built and stabilized. Made it permanent in you. This is the movement of ideas in the 10, 11 and 12. So the beginning of every chapter has different ways of starting here. Some chapters you will find Krishna himself starting the chapter. Some chapters we will find Arjuna asking a question and Krishna answering that. 11th chapter is something different. In the 11th chapter, Arjuna is speaking, but he is not asking a question, he is placing a request to Krishna. It is a request statement, it's not a question. He is placing a request here. So verse number 1.
Arjuna uvacha Madanugrahaya paramam गुह्यमध्यात्मसंज्ञितं यत्त्वयोक्तं वचस्तेन मोहोऽयं विगतो मम। अर्जुन उवाच मदनुग्रहाय परमं गुह्यमध्यात्मसंज्ञितं यत्त्वयोक्तं वचस्तेन मोहोऽयं विगतो मम।
Arjuna said, by that speech of the supreme secret known as Adhyatma, self, which you have spoken out of compassion for me, this delusion of mine is dispelled. So he is building what has happened. And look at the clarity of Arjuna is explained here. This Adhyatma word and all this was introduced by Krishna in the end of the 7th chapter. Right? Adibhuta, Adiyajna, Adhyatma, all this. There he introduced this word. And then Arjuna wanted Krishna to explain further. In the 8th chapter, he went out to explain one dimension. Then he came back to explaining those words. Among those words, he picked up this word Adhyatma and explained as Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya Yoga. And from there, the 10th chapter development happened. All that Arjuna is referring this one word, Adhyatma. This knowledge of the Adhyatma, which you have taught. Why you have taught me all these things? Arjuna is agreeing to Krishna that you are teaching me all this not because I am qualified. You are teaching me all this because of your compassion, he says. Because of your compassion, you are teaching all this. It's your anugraha. So why do you do that? Compassion. What is the compassion Krishna has? He is compassionate enough to remove the delusion and the sorrow that is coming out of that delusion. So now what is Arjuna is explaining here is, implying here is, the Guru will speak, teach, not because of the qualifications of the student. Right? The teacher is speaking to the student not based on the qualification of the student, but because of the natural compassion that is existing in the teacher. What is inspiring the teacher to speak? Now, you cannot inspire a teacher to speak. That's not possible. You can inspire a speaker to speak. That is very easy. All that you have to do is call them and engage them. Give them a platform, a podium and a mic. Even if nobody is there, it doesn't make any difference. Radio jockeys, they do. Sitting in the room, they go on talking. Nobody is there in front. You can imagine and talk. That's not a problem at all, actually. That's happening not because of compassion or anything. Whereas the teacher teaching, particularly this Atma Vidya, the knowledge of the self,
that which can help you to get liberated. The knowledge of that liberation, the knowledge which can grant you that liberation is taught to you by the Master, not because you are qualified. Not because of your qualification. It is because of his compassion. What is Arjuna indicating here to Krishna subtly? I am going to place a request to you. Don't dismiss it saying you are not qualified. Why? I have already told you. You are doing the whole thing out of compassion. So, it's based on you, not based on me. So, he puts it so beautifully here. Yes, you teach it wiser. That anugraha, that compassion. And the knowledge that you have given me is paramam, supreme. Why it is supreme knowledge? That's why we call this as Vedanta. It is the best, highest. Why? It gives you a direct liberation. It liberates you from your samsara. What is a samsara? Your shoka and your moha. Your samsara means what? Samsara is not marriage or anything. Not just you are living in the world. Living in the world is not samsara, remember. Living here with what? You are living here with shoka and moha. So that sorrow and delusion. Life led with sorrow and delusion is called samsara. So that which can knock off, that is paramam. And you yourself have said it is guhyam, secret. Why? Secret means something unknown, that's all. Now what is a secret, sir? Secret means it's not known to people. Many of us don't know what is the real secret of life. What is the secret of life? Immediately you will say what? Secret of life is, you know what, sir? How to attract wealth. You can attract wealth, that's not a problem. After that, law of attraction, sir. Universe will come and fulfill your desires. For you to make universe to be your servant, who you should be. Huh? Imagine the Prime Minister is fulfilling your desires. Your whims and fancies are to be fulfilled by the Prime Minister, let's say. Then who you should be? You cannot be standing in front of his house with an application form. Please, keep sending 500 letters. If I send 500 letters, my appeal will be accepted. It's not going to happen like that. Unless you are going to be bigger than the universe, attraction will not work. You can't sit there and say every day morning 10 times you repeat, afternoon 10 times you repeat, evening 10 times you repeat, night before sleeping 10 times you repeat. Will not work. Why? Because the fellow who advertised it also has not done that. Isn't it? All that he has to do is what? Let the whole universe come and listen to my class. Sit at home, keep repeating. Automatically people will come. Universe will go into everybody's house. And the universe will go into everybody's email and inform. This is the Zoom ID and this is the password. And you will come and sit here or what? That doesn't mean the principle is wrong. Remember that. The principle is correct. But the problem is that principle will work only under certain conditions. Remember, whatever you call as a law, as a rule, it will work in a particular conditions only. When conditions changes, it will not work. Ambulance can go when there is a red light. Correct? But that's a condition. What is a condition? Ambulance driver is going to fill petrol. At that time, he cannot do that. When he is going to pick up a patient or when he is taking the patient to the hospital, at that time he can do. Same car, same driver, same vehicle. Under condition only, everything will work in the world. Remember, water evaporates into vapor, 100 degrees. Where? On earth. You take the same water into the space there. On Mars. There. Will it work? Gravitation, 32 feet per second. It is on earth. Condition. But the gravitation is totally different when you go to Mars. Isn't it? It changes now. Any principle, remember, will work in a condition. You change the condition, it will not work. Similarly, attraction will work. But then you have to be bigger than the universe. Or you bigger than the universe. Remember, you wish to be bigger than the universe. Right? That doesn't mean you are bigger than the universe. Because everybody wants to be big. That way everybody is same. Or you bigger than the universe is the question now. Then attraction will work. Otherwise it's not going to work. So secret. He says this is a great secret. What is the great secret? The secret is the progression of bhakti happens in a particular form. That you need to remember. Otherwise, it will not. So be careful in fixing that first. So he says, you are teaching me because of your compassion, and the teaching that you have given is supreme. Also, it is a secret. What is that knowledge? He is qualifying all this. What is that he is qualifying? He is qualifying the teaching. What teaching? This knowledge of Adhyatma. The knowledge of the self. Meaning, what is the self? What is the non-self? That knowledge. Atma, Anatma, Viveka. Vishaya. That is the knowledge of Adhyatma. Spoken all these things. What it has resulted in me, this quality of this knowledge has resulted in me what? He says, my shoka is not gone. My moha is gone, he says. That's the best part here. If he says, my shoka gone, moha will be there still. Right? He says, because the shoka is the byproduct of moha. It's the effect. The cause is delusion, effect is sorrow. He is not saying, my sorrow is gone. My delusion is gone. Then we ask the question, what delusion is gone in Arjuna? What is the delusion that is gone in him right now? Right now, we say the delusion with reference to his condition, the cause that he believed for his condition, that is gone. That's all. That doesn't mean the total delusion is gone. See, the total delusion gone means he is already realized. After that, he will not ask Krishna to show his cosmic form and all that. Right? Right now he says, my delusion is gone. What is that? Not the total delusion gone, a fiber of the delusion gone. A percentage of the delusion disappeared. That's it. Not totally eradicated. The depth of the delusion is gone in him. What is that? I had no knowledge of what is the nature of Jiva, what is the nature of Jagat, what is the nature of Ishvara, what is the relationship between Ishvara, Jagat and the Jiva, and what is the thing that is binding the Jiva to Jagat instead of moving towards Ishvara. All this confusion, all this ignorance is gone in me. That's all he says. He is not yet ready to fight the battle. Remember. Right. In the 18th chapter also he is going to say Nashto Moha Smriti Labdha. The 18th chapter also he says my Moha gone. In the 11th chapter also he says my Moha gone. What is the difference? Don't think that his Moha is completely gone right now and he is ready to function. He is back to normal and he is able to do his regular duties and all that. No, he is not ready to be functional now. But the disease is gone. That's the stage now. Now the disease is gone, but you are not yet ready to go to gym. You have to recoup yourself. There is a period. See, that's the period in which Arjuna is right now. And that's what he is referring here. So, don't think his total delusion gone. People think, take this and say, see, Arjuna says, my delusion is gone completely. Now, he says his delusion gone completely. Then why he is saying Nashto Moha Smriti Labdha, the 18th chapter again? It's not the same thing. There is a difference. What is the delusion gone? The delusion is, I have not even understood. This is the difference. Delusion. Delusion means I have not even recognized that I didn't knew these things in life and these things are important to be known in life. This knowledge is necessary for us to live our life. That itself I didn't know. Right now, what is that I have understood? I have understood this knowledge is necessary for me. That doesn't mean I have got the knowledge. No. Earlier stage and current stage, that's a difference. In the 11th chapter, he says, my moha gone. What moha? What is moha? Put it in a simple language. In the 11th chapter, he says, Krishna, earlier I didn't even knew that I didn't knew. Now I know that I don't know. Earlier, I didn't even knew that there is a thing called this knowledge. Now I know there is a thing called this. Earlier, I didn't knew the existence of a medication. Now I know there is a medication for this disease. That doesn't mean disease is gone. Disease has not gone yet. Only now he is saying, I am ready for taking the course of medication. Earlier, I suffered from the symptoms of the disease. That's why we go to a doctor only when there is a symptom. When the disease comes, we don't go. You see, when the symptoms come only, we go. And we go to the doctor to clear the symptoms, not the disease. It is the doctor who says, this is the disease. We go to him only because I have a headache. That's all. He decides. He says, no, this is a migraine, or this is meningitis, or this is a tumor in the brain. Depending on the cause, the course of medication has to be done. You might have fixed the problem, but then we don't know which is the course of medication for this disease. Krishna, the knowledge that you have given me so far had given me very clearly that this is the knowledge that I require to get rid of my problem. Earlier, my intensity of ignorance is so thick that I didn't even knew that I was ignorant. Now, I know that I am ignorant. And most of us take this itself to be wisdom. It's like saying, earlier I didn't knew that I have tumor, now I know I have a tumor. So what are you? This is what people think, Wisdom is what, sir? Knowing that I don't know is wisdom. That's not wisdom, please. That's a preliminary requirement for you to pursue wisdom. Assumption is, if you have this understanding, you will pursue, and it's just a question of time, you will reach one day. In Tarka, this is one of the rules they have. Just a question of time, it's going to become. Therefore, we claim right now itself with that. Like a lady who is washing their rice. What she is having in the hand is rice. She is washing. You go and ask her, what are you doing? She will say sadham. Right? In English, we don't have parallel for that word. Right? Therefore, I can't use it. You go and ask her, what are you doing? What is that? I am cooking rice in English, but that's not the word there. Sadham means cooked rice. That's called sadham. Right now, what she is holding in hand is a raw rice. When you are actually holding a raw rice, how can you say this is sadham? It is rice. It is arisi. It's not sadham. But then, in another 10 minutes, this is going to become sadham. Therefore, now itself we call it as sadham. That's all. Same way, the one who recognizes that I am ignorant, I don't know, is the one who is going to soon become a wise man. Therefore, we call him wise. That doesn't mean he is wise already. Remember. Now, many of us think, yeah, I know that I don't know, sir. Therefore, what? Forget. And then sit and sleep. Oh. You cannot survive. Remember that. It's like a man who has understood this moha, this delusion. I am in the delusion if a fellow understands, he will function, he will run around like a man who has the fire is caught his ear. How you will run towards water is how he will run towards knowledge. When you are caught on fire, how you will run is how you should. Only then you can say, my delusion is gone. Otherwise, where are you? In delusion only. Yeah, very good class, sir. But lot of disturbance, no, today in the class? Means what? Delusion. See, not delusion, we say. Is this important, or you're talking about your life is gone completely? Is that or this? So he says, my moha is dispelled. Vigata, dispels. It is completely gone. Gata, gone. Vigata, completely gone. Totally gone. Totally gone when he says it's not totally gone. The first layer is totally gone. That's all it is. It's like they have won the World Cup. After that, the tournament is never going to happen or what? No. This year, World Cup is won by this team. That's all it is. Later on, what will happen, sir? Next World Cup will come. At that time, they may lose also. Same way, this standard, I have passed. This I have cleared. CA Inter, I have passed. That's all. That doesn't mean you have become a chartered accountant. But invariably, you will find the company who's employing these people immediately will give them an increment. And I say that I am doing CA Inter, they'll give me a job. I'll get a job. I'll join the company. The moment I tell that company that I have passed my CA Inter, immediately you will find them giving me an increment. Why? 50% crossed. To that extent he is, same way here, he says, all my delusion is gone. Completely gone. Not that completely gone, the first layer of delusion is gone. What is the first layer of delusion? I didn't even understand the value of this knowledge. That is why Krishna, you referred this as a secret. You called it as a guhyam. Correct. What is a guhyam, sir? The knowledge is not guhyam. It's not a secret, unknown. What is unknown to us is the value of the knowledge, the importance of that knowledge, the urgency of that knowledge is not understood. Now I have understood that. That aspect of delusion is gone in me. Right? We'll see more in the next class.